We will be looking at a national emergency because I don't think anything's going to happen. We're getting nowhere with the Democrats. We're not going to get anywhere with them. It's going to be a part of their campaign, but I don't think it's good politically. And I think Nancy Pelosi should be ashamed of herself because she's hurting a lot of people.
Donald Trump might be publicly blaming Nancy Pelosi for how the shutdown played out, but as Axios reports, privately, Trump is worried that the shutdown has hurt him in states like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. And somebody who knows those parts of the country very well is Michael Moore. He's an Academy Award-winning documentary filmmaker. His latest film, Fahrenheit 11/9, is now streaming on Amazon Prime. It's available on DVD, Blu-ray, and iTunes. Michael, good to see you. I definitely
always got to get the plug in there, don't you?
Got to get the plug in
there. We
just
can't just get right to saving the country.
No, we got to get the plug in. Because pretty soon, if I do that for you, you're going to say something nice about Canada and single-payer health care pretty soon. But before we get to any of that stuff, I just want to ask you about the Ralph Northam situation. As you can see here, I've got tweets and tweets and tweets and statements from people about Ralph Northam should resign, Ralph Northam should resign. Mark Warner of Virginia and Tim Kaine have both not explicitly called for his resignation. They've said he has to listen to the people of Virginia and make a decision about what he has to do. But newspapers are calling for his resignation. What should Ralph Northam do?
Well, let's start with the broader picture. What should the Democrats do? The Democrats have been, in part, responsible for not doing the things that need to be done to lift African Americans off the lowest rung of the economic ladder. And that has to change. Democrats have got to quit just mouthing this, I support African Americans, and then not really doing anything about it. And, we had Democrats in charge for 8 years, and during that time, Flint, Michigan, the water gets poisoned, the Republican governor is responsible for this, and yet nothing happens. And it's an African American city. It's majority African American. That's the broad picture. The little thing that we've got to deal with right now is, are you telling me that during the commercial break, Ralph Northam did not resign?
He did not apparently.
He has not resigned.
Yeah.
He must be watching the cable news right now. Ralph, please, all right? You have to resign by the time this show's over. You know it. I know it. Everybody watching knows it. You need to, in fact, call in right now into the show if you could. The switchboard here at NBC, 212-664-4444. Ralph, call us right now. Allie and I will take the call. Will you take the call?
We will definitely take the call.
Can he resign live on the air?
I'm surprised you knew the phone number. I didn't even know the phone
All
number.
of America knows the phone number to the three major networks.
So if Ralph Northam calls in, we'll definitely take the call. Do you give some credence to the apology that he recorded in which he acknowledges the harm that he did? He didn't do what others have done who have been accused of these things. He said, I did it. He said, I've harmed people and I can't change that. And now I want to rebuild trust. I mean, look.
Rebuild trust by resigning. That's 212-664-4444. Allie and I can take your call live right now on the air. No, he has to go.
All right.
What he did, what he said, yes, but that doesn't matter. Our side doesn't tolerate this for 1 second. When was this announced? How many hours ago? I can't believe he's still the governor of Virginia. This
very interesting.
Needs to end by the end of the last word.
Let's talk about the shutdown or the emergency declaration. The president today went out of his way to explain that a wall is being built. It's under construction now. He's lying. There are 0 miles of wall under construction, but this does seem to be a tactic he's using now. Let's just say it's being built, and maybe his base will support him, and the Ann Coulters of the world will say it's okay. This isn't going to work. He's not going to get his money for his wall. He's being warned, apparently, by Mitch McConnell not to declare a national emergency because that's going to run into problems, even with Republicans.
Okay, so let's look at the positive of this, all right? Yes, Donald Trump lies 30 to 40 times a day, but he did give us a sliver of truth today, and that's when he did say, I have other measures, and that he is putting it out there that he's going to declare this national emergency. I would take him at his word, because every now and then he actually blurts out what he's planning to do. For us to spend the next 2 weeks not thinking anything's going to happen, I mean, we really need to be prepared as citizens of this country for whatever he does with his national emergency, whether it's written on John Bolton's legal pad or not. Let's start a war. Let's send troops to Colombia.
That was kind of incredible.
Well, it was incredible that it shows what they're thinking in basic wag the dog fashion here. they know that by starting a war, or having a crisis, some emergency, is a way to get people's minds off the real issue,
right,
that he is a colluder and that there is going to be an impeachment of him. He doesn't want anybody talking about that, so we spend all our time talking about the shutdown or this or that. But he already knows the shutdown isn't going to work again. He's got to do what got him elected. Just take it by the collar and go for it, and that's what he's going to do. And why are we sitting around waiting for that to happen? We should be making our plans right now as to how we're going to resist and stop his fake national emergency.
He's been asking people about the trouble he's having in the Midwest. A Detroit News WDIV poll asked Michigan voters who they blame for the shutdown. 45% said Donald Trump, 26% said Democrats, 22% said both. But the bottom line...
Actually, in Michigan, 1% actually blamed me. But
all right, fair enough.
I know those people. Right. Don't believe them.
What do you... Donald Trump is having problems across the Midwest. He knows that. He's now, apparently, according to some reporting, asking advisors how he recovers his standing in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan.
That's again, it shows when he does click. That's the right question he should be asking himself, because that's how he won the White House. Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. And they all tossed out the Republican in the governor chair, and they put a Democrat in November. That he can see the writing on the wall, that he's losing these key states that are now going back to turning blue, and so he knows that he should be thinking about Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. But how is he going to? In the town where I live, up in northern Michigan, it's a Coast Guard town. It's where one of the big Coast Guard stations are for the Great Lakes. And there were so many people affected by this in ways I think that people were surprised when you and others would show it on the news here, going to food pantries and not being able to pay the bills and getting eviction notices and things like that. Who would have thought that why would anybody serving this country ever have to worry?
A government employee has to do that. That they had to call into these shows and tell us about how they were going to miss their mortgage payments, how they couldn't get food, I mean, it's unbelievable. I had somebody telling me, a TSA worker saying, I can't go to work because I can't afford the gas, because the gas station doesn't give you a loan. They don't give you gas on credit.
No, it was very powerful. The things that you and Stephanie did during that shutdown, you couldn't, you'd tear up watching.
I did every day.
MSNBC. Yes, it was. We
weren't watching people after a natural disaster. We weren't watching people after a tsunami had hit their homes. These are regular people who are either going to work or not working, but for no cause, we're not getting paid.
Harm being inflicted upon them by essentially our representative in the White House.
Yeah.
It's so many shameful moments in these 2 years.
When we come back, we're going to talk about the question that Donald Trump is asking himself, the concern he has about who can beat him in 2020. Michael Moore is with me. We'll be right back with more of The Last Word. All right, Michael Moore is back with us. We got to talk about 2020. Michael, there are a lot of people running for president on the Democratic side, a lot of people who are asking themselves the question about whether they can do a better job than Donald Trump, and most of them are coming up with an answer that says, yes, that group of 8 is going to become much bigger probably over the course of the next couple of months.
Yeah.
Are they asking themselves the right question?
Well, no, because can I do better than Donald Trump? Camera 2, I'd vote for him. I mean, seriously. Anyone in this room, anybody out there, anybody watching right now, obviously could probably do a better job than Donald Trump. No, the question they need to be asking is, who's going to crush Donald Trump? Who can win? I mean, really win. Not just win the popular vote, win Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. Who could crush Trump? Who is that person? Ask yourself that right now. If you're at home, ask yourselves right now, who's that person that right now, tonight, could crush Donald Trump?
Do you think that's more important than taking positions on things? We knew that health care was one of the biggest issues to most American voters in the last election, certainly to Democratic voters. Yeah. And everybody's taking out a position on health care. Many of them are coming out on the side of single-payer health care. You think the who can crush Donald Trump will be the most important question above?
I think it already is. I think they asked that question in an Iowa poll of Democrats last week, and that was the #1 thing people came back with. Yes, of course, health care, tax the rich, raise the minimum wage, end mass incarceration, all these things that are essentially being pushed by the new progressive Democrats in the House. I mean, that's what I wish it's too bad that you have to be 35 to be president. You know, that we put that in the Constitution, the Founding Fathers, because people died at 38 or 40 back then. You know, we need to lower that. If that was lowered to 30.
All right, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is that where you're going with this?
Could be running. Could be running. She just has to be 30 by the time. By the time January of 2021.
So she's, look, everybody can out-progressive each other on their platforms. You're saying that she's got fire in the belly to get
She is the
going?
leader. She is the leader. Everybody knows it. Everybody feels it. She's the leader of this mass movement that is not, I'm not talking about a movement in terms of an organization. I'm talking about a news poll this week that where it said 70% of the American public agree with her on having the top marginal rate for the rich, their taxes, 70% rate on the rich. And that's a Fox News poll saying that over 2/3 of the country.
Now, there are a lot of Americans who think that's
her.
crazy, but they also don't remember that we had marginal tax rates above 90%.
Yes, at
a time when the economy was actually doing.
I grew up in that time, and that's when all the libraries.
I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying
the libraries were open. There weren't potholes. Schools were great.
Yeah. Fox likes talking about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Yeah.
I think they talk about her more than anybody else does. The right is enjoying having her as the image of what Democrats are. Is there a danger if someone that progressive runs that it does turn off moderates, or do you think that's not a danger worth worrying about? I'm not.
No. First of all, if you're moderate, stop being moderate. Take a position. All right. There's no middle ground anymore. There's no halfway point to should somebody be paid a living wage. Well, I'm a moderate, so I think they could be paid half of a living wage. You know, on the issue of choice, there's no halfway there. You're either for it or you're against it. You know, do you believe in equal rights for women? Do you believe that we should have an equal rights amendment? Yes or no? There's no middle ground. This is no time for moderation.
Where there is middle ground possibly is health care and taxes. Right? How much you tax the rich?
How much? 70% of the people said tax the rich.
Or
70%. Oh, the polls.
Or what kind of health care? Right? There are many different ways of insuring everybody.
Really?
We both agree.
Well, you mean?
You know, I like my system from Canada. It's one of several systems that most of the developed world use. I guess my point is that
all of the developed world. Don't say most.
There's a lot of people.
Don't be moderate and pull your punch here.
Right.
All of the developed world,
except for America,
except for this country. And it's shameful, and we look weird, too. You can't explain it to a person from another country.
No, it's not a progressive policy anywhere else in the world. It's just the policy, right?
It's just the policy. Conservatives in Canada would never think of removing their Canadian health care. The Tories in Britain, all behind it.
Right.
This is the craziest thing.
So you feel strongly that it's a progressive, and it's specifically Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Yes, I don't think Americans right now actually really identify themselves in the old school way of I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, you know. I don't think that's what's going on. I think that people have had it. I think that they have realized that they're sick and tired of living from paycheck to paycheck, and this has to end. And they know that their kids are never going to pay off those student loans.
And if we didn't see it, we saw it in the shutdown, where you saw government employees, the ones that a whole bunch of Republicans spent years telling me are overpaid, who couldn't make it to their second paycheck
lie
when they weren't.
Lie after lie. There's lines in Canada outside the doctor's offices. Lie after lie after lie. Has Ralph Northam called this yet? Anybody?
He hasn't. We have a minute left in the show.
We have a minute, Ralph. We've got 1 minute left.
I'm not holding out a whole lot of hope.
Disappointed.
Michael, thank you as always for being here. I appreciate it. We will remember this conversation when 2020 comes around.
And Super Bowl Sunday, let me just say.
You gonna make a prediction?
I'm going to say quit all the whining Saints. I don't want to hear this anymore. You know, in that same game of that pass interference, there were 2 face masks that the Saints did to the Rams that the refs didn't catch, plus a roughing up of a player, and the clock had run down, and Brady didn't snap the ball. You could look at 4 different things that could have changed that game where the refs missed it on the Saints. The Saints, 2012, remember, cash for it. They gave bonuses to their players if they broke the bone.
Yeah, there's no shortages of challenges.
If they broke the bones on the other side. And that coach was suspended for a year.
That's all I'm going to say. For tonight. I'm Ali Velshi. He's Michael Moore. The 11th hour with Brian Williams starts now.
Sorry, Brian.